Happy Monday, everyone. This is Martha with Nature Niche, and this week I want to share a store landscape project with you as a demonstration of frost seeding, and also take you through, use this project as an example and run you through Michigan Wildflower Farm's 10 steps to a successful wildflower seeding. I hand these out in my store as I sell different native Michigan seed mixes, and I thought showing you a whole project as an example might be helpful. So a frost seeding is a special kind of dormant seeding that's done at the tail end of winter, usually February, March, when temperatures oscillate from above freezing during the day to below freezing at night. Spring's kind of hitting us early this year, but I got it in, and I think my seed will get some good stratification yet. It is Michigan. We still have April and part of May to go. Snow is likely. I also wanted to share a couple of great references for doing native seedings. The Tall Grass Restoration Handbook for Prairie, Savannas, and Woodlands is sort of the Bible for prairie restoration, and the more recently published the Tallgrass Prairie Center Guide to Prairie Restoration in the Upper Midwest. I use these books often for reference, and they're great resources if you want to learn more. The first step to a successful wildflower planting is to analyze your site. It's important to know what your soil type is, if you have sand, silt, clay, or muck, what the current vegetation is like, what is the drainage, moisture, do you have slopes, and how much sunlight do you get in your particular area. So in my case, I have very sandy soils at the back of the store, probably left over from the grading of US 10, and I had the landscapers helping me last year not mow the back so that I could see what was actually growing there, see if there's anything good. Found a hybrid prickly pear cactus that I tried to work around, but just about everything else was non-native. A lot of narrow-leaf plantain, which can be a host plant for some of the butterfly species in our area, but also I had some invasive Horiolisum and crown vetch, and some really spiny annual non-native grass. Really no lawn, successful lawn back here. So pretty much starting with a clean slate would be my best option here. It's very open and sunny, and there's a slight slope down to that stormwater basin that you can see where our cars are parked. The second step is to select proper species for your site. I'm a huge proponent of using native Michigan plants in your landscape. They're well adapted to our soil, climate, and they've evolved with our native fauna, our insects and other wildlife species. So that's my first choice, and given the sunny, dry, sandy soils, I decided to kind of replace the invasive species like the Horiolisum and crown vetch that you can see here with short grass prairie species. And I didn't want the vegetation to get too tall, so I was aiming for species that get a maximum of 3 feet high. So I worked with Michigan Wildflower Farm, and they helped me modify their short and sweet native seed mix. I added some additional species to that, so it'll have really nice, low growing, wildflower species like common yarrow, butterfly weed, sand tick seed, purple coneflower, wild lupin. I added some species like cat's foot or Oldfield balsam is another name for that plant species. Horse mint, hairy beard tongue, black-eyed Susans, a couple different species. And I wanted to have some asters and goldenrods to make sure I had good pollinator support blooming through the fall. So gray or Oldfield goldenrod, smooth aster, prairie heartleaf aster, and hairy aster, as well as hoary vervain and golden Alexander. So I was aiming for things that stay under 3 feet and bloom spring through fall to help support pollinators. And then the grasses are also fairly low growing. Side oats grama, which is actually rare in Michigan, but since I'm not near a prairie remnant, I felt comfortable using that low grass species, purple love grass, June grass, little blue stem, and prairie dropseed. Step 3 is to decide how much seed you need. My area was about 7,000 square feet and is certainly a dryland or upland seeding. And Michigan Wildflower Farm recommends 5 ounces of perennial seed for about 1,000 square foot area. So I needed about 35 ounces of pure live seed for that. Step 4 is to eliminate existing lawn grasses, perennial weeds, invasive species. And you can do that by organic means, such as tilling or using black plastic for a long period of time to smother, or you can use herbicide. Since I had sort of limited time to put towards this effort and it's most effective, I chose to use herbicide. I used a glyphosate product, Roundup. I made sure that glyphosate was the only active ingredient. Sometimes Roundup at the store has other herbicides added that have a much longer residence time in the soil. I just used the straight up glyphosate version of Roundup and foliar sprayed this back area with a handheld pump sprayer in early October, a few weeks after the landscapers had come through and done a final mowing. So the plants were growing again. I got them sort of at the end of the growing season and had really good dieback. So that was important to prepare the seed bed, which is step 5. So you can use raking or thatching or burning to help remove vegetation. This site wasn't very thickly vegetated, and since it had most of the winter to decompose, I already have at least 50% of the soil surface showing. So I really didn't need to do a lot of seed bed preparation, which was nice. You do want to minimize turning up new soil because that brings new weed seed to the surface. So I really didn't do much other than the mowing and the herbicide prep to get ready to sow the seed. This is step 6. So you can use a hand broadcast method, which is what I chose to do. I really like hand broadcasting. You can use a handheld crank seeder. You can also do broadcast with equipment or use a no-till drill to install native seed mixes. I laid out rows across my site because I knew I was going to hand broadcast. I just paced off every 10 feet and divided my 7,000 square foot seating area into 10-foot swaths. So this is my seed mix preparation area, and there's my bag of seed from Michigan Wildflower Farm. And this is what it looks like when you open up the bag. So you can see the larger and fluffy, fuzzy native grass seed. That's a lot of little blue stem. And the wildflower seed are the much smaller seeds in most cases. So it comes all mixed up. And because of the way I knew I was hand broadcasting, I used our shipping scale, since we had it handy, to measure out, divide my seed mix into 12 parts, because I had 6 swaths and I wanted to do those in 2 directions to get good coverage. This is the organic soil that I used. As a carrier, when you're hand broadcasting seed that's very small and can seem very daunting to get that spread across a large area, but using this organic soil, one, it gets the seed in contact with soil just in how I'm broadcasting it, and it also gives me a bigger handful, more to hang on to. So we took and I chose organic soil. I wanted something that didn't have a lot of added inorganic fertilizers or a lot of, peat moss, because that comes out of wetlands. It's hard to avoid that altogether. But I chose that, and then I also added vermiculite. It's this granular stuff right here. It's pretty light. For hand broadcasting, you can also use damp sand or kitty litter. I could have just used the organic soil. I just wanted a little more to hold on to, so I added in the vermiculite. But the dark color of the soil with my sandy soils also helped me see sort of where I was dropping the mixture, and so I could be as consistent as possible, getting good coverage as I applied the seed mix. So we just mixed it by hand in a wheelbarrow, and I used about half a bag kind of per section. And we took this carrier mix that I made and added in 1/12 of the seed mix at a time, and mixed that up really well. And then I took each portion of seed mix and carrier, and I started working in an east-west direction, following my rows like that. I'm pretty sure I can comfortably broadcast seed about a 5-foot wide path. So I just sort of serpentine down one side of my row and came back the other direction to get the other half. And then I worked perpendicular to my original direction. So now working north-south and going back over the entire area from basically that perpendicular direction. So every square foot of the area gets seeded in 2 different directions, and that really gets you nice coverage, especially when you're seeding by hand. So I like it. It's very hands-on. You can be very particular about where you put certain species if you like with this method of seeding, but certainly faster ones exist if you want to go a higher tech route with equipment. Step 7 is incorporating the seeds into the soil. Because I'm doing a frost seeding, I'm hoping to get some freezing temperatures, at least at night, and that freeze-thaw cycle really helps incorporate the seed naturally into the soil, kind of letting Mother Nature do the hard work. And that's how I'm handling this particular seeding. You can rake very lightly. If you're using equipment, go over the area with a thatcher. You can roll over it with a lawn roller, tamp it down with a rake, or even with your feet. I've walked back and forth across this site several times, and that helps press the seed into the ground. You can also, if you have really bare and erosive soil, you can lightly mulch with a weed-free straw so that 50% of the ground still shows. Or if you have steep slopes, use an erosion control blanket. I really don't have that situation here. Step 8 is watering. It's not absolutely necessary, but it will speed germination and establishment. But once you start watering, you need to continue, keep the soil continuously moist until the seedlings are well established. Again, because I'm doing a dormant seeding, I'm really just going to rely on spring rain to take care of watering for me. And the majority of seeding projects really don't need irrigation. Step 9 is first year management, and it's really critical to the success of your wildflower planting. I'm hoping to post in the future on this, but basically I'll be keeping an eye out for weeds this first year, and often mowing is a great tool to help keep the vegetation that grows, especially weeds, annual weeds, at bay. I can mow with a raised mower blade if those become an issue and miss the low growing, newly germinated prairie seedlings. And step 10 is long-term management. These native wildflower seedings are low management in the long run, but not no management. It's important to look for invasive species and doing the occasional weed pulling, cutting, or spot spraying with herbicide. So I will do future posts and let you know how it goes. But I hope this encourages you to try your hand at a native wildflower seeding.